The shot felt perfect. Solid rest, calm breathing, crosshairs where they were supposed to be. On the range, that setup would punch neat holes all day long. But this wasn't the range. This was a real hunt, with cold air, uneven ground, and an animal that could move at the last second. The rifle was a familiar .223 light, easy to carry, and trusted by many. The trigger broke, the animal reacted, and suddenly things didn't go exactly as planned. No panic, no drama, just that quiet moment afterward when you replay the shot in your head and realize how different real-world hunting is from paper targets and charts. Hair, bone, angles, distance, and adrenaline all change the outcome. And that's where the .223 sparks strong opinions. Some hunters swear by it because it's worked for them. Others swear it off because once was enough to make them doubt it forever. This isn't about calling anyone wrong. It's about understanding why experiences vary so much, and why equipment that looks perfect on paper can behave differently in the field. If you care about ethical hunting, honest talk, and cutting through internet hype, you're in the right place. Subscribe to Gun Myths for more real-world discussions, lessons learned, and straight talk, no fluff, just facts and experience. The promise versus the reality. On paper, the .223 Remington looks like a home run. Low recoil, flat shooting, affordable ammo, and accuracy that makes tiny groups feel easy. Spend enough time at the range, and it builds confidence fast. Hitting steel at 300 yards starts to feel normal. And that's when the line between promise and reality gets blurry, because steel just rings. It doesn't take a step, turn a shoulder, or react when things aren't perfect. Animals do. In the real world, the .223 shines in the right lanes. It's excellent for varmints and predators, coyotes, foxes, and similar-sized game, especially in open terrain where shots are clear and angles are clean. It also works well for small game where legal, and for training new shooters who need control and confidence more than power. Pair it with a lightweight bolt-action rifle or a quality AR-style rifle, and you've got a setup that's easy to carry, easy to shoot, and easy to practice with. That's where the .223 earns its reputation. Where things get complicated is the medium game. In thick woods, brushy terrain, or situations where shots aren't perfect, the margin for error shrinks fast. The cartridge doesn't offer much forgiveness when bone, odd angles, or movement enter the picture. Some hunters make it work. Others learn its limits the hard way. This is the gap between charts and field results, the stuff you don't learn on steel. Stick around. There's more to unpack, and real-world experience matters. The first hard lesson, that's usually the first hard lesson people learn. Margin matters. The .223 doesn't give you much room to be off. When everything lines up, a calm animal, clean broadside angle, the right bullet in the right spot can do exactly what it's supposed to do. No drama, no problems. But hunting rarely gives perfect setups on demand. Real animals move. A step forward, a slight turn, a head drop at the wrong time. Wind that barely shows up on the range can nudge a light bullet just enough to matter. And when that bullet meets bone instead of soft tissue, the outcome can change fast. That's where the .223 runs out of forgiveness. With larger calibers, a hit that's a little high, a little back, or a little angled can still end cleanly. There's more energy, more penetration, and more damage where it counts. The .223 doesn't have that cushion. The same slightly imperfect hit can mean shallow penetration, limited tissue damage, and an animal that doesn't go down quickly. That's the moment no hunter forgets. Not because of excitement, but because of the sick feeling that follows. Watching an animal run farther than expected. Waiting, tracking, hoping, sometimes finding it, sometimes not. Those experiences are what shape strong opinions about this cartridge, more than any chart or group size ever could. This isn't about fear or blame, it's about understanding limits before they show up the hard way. And that's where the real conversation about caliber choice begins. Bullet performance is everything. That leads straight into the next truth. Bullet performance is everything, and it still isn't magic. You'll hear it all the time. Just use the right bullet. And yes, with the .223, bullet choice matters more than almost anything else. But that advice can also give a false sense of security. Even the best hunting bullets can't break the rules of physics. You're still working with a light bullet, a small diameter, and limited energy once it reaches the target, especially as distance stretches out. There's no extra weight or momentum to fall back on when things don't go exactly right. Compared to classic deer calibers, the .223 doesn't hit with much authority. It doesn't push through mistakes. It depends on clean placement and controlled expansion to do its job. That means everything has to line up: distance, angle, movement, and timing. And here's the part. People don't like to admit precision on a calm range is one thing. Precision in the field, with uneven ground, wind, nerves, and a moving animal, is another. The 223 can work, but it asks a lot from the shooter every single time. That gap between theory and reality is where most debates about this cartridge really live. Distance shrinks faster than you expect. Another reality check comes with distance, and it shrinks faster than most people expect. On the range, 200 yards feels easy. Stable position, known distance, no pressure. In the field, that same 200 yards is where the 223 can start to feel thin. Energy drops fast as the bullet travels. Wind, even a light one, has more influence than many shooters realize. Penetration becomes less predictable, especially if the angle isn't perfect. Shots that look good enough on paper suddenly don't feel so comfortable when there's a real animal on the other end. This is where experienced hunters start making different choices. They pass shots they'd take without hesitation using larger calibers, not because they can't hit the target, but because they understand what happens when conditions aren't ideal. That kind of discipline isn't exciting, and it's not easy, especially for new hunters. Most people don't start out cautious. That restraint usually comes after a tough lesson, after seeing how quickly things can go wrong, when distance, movement, and a small margin for error all stack up at once. Bone is the great equalizer. Then there's the great equalizer. This is the part that often gets left out of range talk and online debates. Heavier calibers can break through shoulders and still reach vital areas. The 223 often can't, especially when angles aren't perfect. When a 2223 bullet meets heavy bone, a few things can happen, and none are ideal. It can break apart too early. It can stop short of reaching deep vital tissue, or it can change direction just enough to turn a solid hit into a poor one. That's not a flaw, it's just physics. Animals don't stand square and still. They turn, quarter, tense, and move at the worst moments. The 223 demands ideal conditions, and the woods rarely offer them. That's why understanding this limitation matters more than any paper group ever will. Legal doesn't always mean wise. Legal doesn't always mean wise. In many states, the 223 is technically allowed for deer. That doesn't mean it's the best choice, or that every shot will end ethically. Wildlife agencies set minimum standards, not ideal practices. Experienced hunters learn to separate what's legal from what's responsible. That lesson usually comes the hard way, tracking farther than expected, losing daylight while following blood, or worst of all, losing the animal entirely. Those moments stick. They shape how you think about caliber, shot selection, and preparation. The 223 can work, but only if you fully respect its limits and know when to pass. Who the 223 is for? I'll be fair, the 223 isn't useless. It has a place, but only in the right hands and the right conditions. It can be a responsible choice for hunters who are highly disciplined, who take time to make every shot count, and who only hunt at short to moderate ranges. Calm, controlled conditions make all the difference, and it works best for shooters willing to pass the shots they aren't confident in. The 223 doesn't forgive mistakes. It won't cover for being rushed, careless, or overly optimistic. Respect its limits, and it can do its job, but skip that, and the consequences can be harsh and unforgettable. The biggest lesson hunters learn the hard way? The 223 teaches humility. It shows that hitting steel on the range doesn't automatically mean a clean, ethical kill in the field. It reminds you that ethics matter more than ego. Passing a questionable shot is often the difference between a responsible hunt and a heartbreaking mistake. It also teaches a hard truth. Power buys forgiveness. Bigger calibers give more margin for error, more energy, and more consistent results when animals move, angles change, or the unexpected happens. The 223 works beautifully when everything lines up, but it doesn't forgive lapses, and that's exactly what sticks in a hunter's memory. Most people who move on from the 223 don't do it because it never worked. They move on because it worked perfectly over and over until the one time it didn't, and that one time is unforgettable. If you found this real-world insight useful, like, share, and subscribe to Gun Myths for more honest discussions about hunting and gear. Drop a comment with your experiences or questions. Let's keep the conversation real.